1.3, and let me know how these economic industries affect the financial statement. And but before that, let me know some ideas about those four economic industries. That's four industries in that exhibit 1.3. Grocery stores chain comes in grocery store. There is more competitors. When it comes in grocery store, like SM Hypermarket, the Robinson Supermarket, the Unimart, and so on, which those grocery store chain are difficult to differentiate from similar product of other grocery store chain. It is actually low varies to entry access in the grocery store industry, where an entrant needs primarily retail space and access to food products distribution. Those extensive competition and non-differentiated product results on a relatively low net income to net sale or the profit margin, like in the exhibit 1.3, 1.3, 3.5% in this case grocery stores, which these relatively few assets need to generate the sales, which 34.2 cents in asset for each dollar of sales. The assets are described as turning over 2.9 times per year. Each dollar invested in asset generated on average 2.9 of revenues. Each time the assets of this grocery store chain generate $1 of revenues, it generates in profit of 3.5 cents. Thus, during a 1-year period, the grocery store earned 10.15 cents for each dollar invested in assets. Utility. As we can see, those property, plant, and equipment is dominate the balance sheet because of the large investment required by such the assets. Those electric utility firms generally demanded in a monopoly position in a particular locale, and until recent years, it is usually obtained. Here, electric utility is held a high profit margin of 10.5% in this case, to offset the relatively low total asset turnover position and the regulatory protection amount of capital in long-lived assets and take on relatively high proportion of debts to their capital structure. The economic characteristic of electric utility is have changed dramatically in recent years with gradual elimination of the monopoly position and the introduction of competition that affect rates, reducing profit margin considerably. In this exhibit 1.3, we are borrowing and lending. For financial capital, it is served as supply and demand. These investment in financial securities and loans to businesses and consumers. For financial bank, the principal financing comes from customer deposit and the short-term borrowings, because customer is generally withdraw deposit at any time. Commercial bank invests in securities that they can quickly convert into cash if necessary. Because let's say money is a commodity, one would expect a commercial bank to realize a small profit margin on the revenue it earns from lending, or the interest expense, interest revenue, over the price it pays for its borrowed funds or for interest expense. Here at Exhibit 1.3, it is the 13% of margin for the commercial bank reflect the much higher profit margin it generates from the offering fee-based financial service such as structuring financing package for businesses, guaranteeing financial commitment of the business customers, and arranging mergers and acquisition. Note that the asset in this commercial bank turn over just 0.09 times per year, reflecting the net effect of interest revenues and fees from investments and loans of 6 to 8% per year, which requires a large investment in financial assets. Exhibit 1.3, Tools for Studying Industry Economics. For studying the economic characteristic of an industry are first the value chain analysis. The second one is the Porter's 5 force classification framework. The third one is an economic attributes framework, which the microeconomics literature suggests other analytical framework as well. In value chain analysis. So what is that value chain analysis? This is a chain of activities involving the creation, manufacture, and distribution of the product and the services. Actually, the purpose of the value chain analysis is to increase the value of the product and the services. The example of value chain analysis is those the Exhibit 1.4, the value chain, for example, for the pharmaceutical industries. 1.4, value chain for pharmaceutical industry. First, this is the research to discover drugs. The second, approve of drugs by the government, regulators, manufacture of drugs, creation of demand for drugs, and distribution to consumers.
Exhibit 1.5, Division Revenues and Operating Profits for PepsiCo in a year of 2012. As you can see in Exhibit 1.5, it shows the amount taken from PepsiCo 1, the proportions of revenues and operating profit that PepsiCo derived from each division. As we can see in the table, there are 7 divisions. The Frito-Lay North America, the Quarter Foods North America, the Latin America Foods, the PepsiCo Americas Beverages, the PepsiCo Europe, the Asia, Middle East, and America, and the corporate unallocated. So in each division, they have the corresponding revenues and operating profits to get the operating profit margin. So the operating profit margin is a profitability on performance ratio that reflects the percentage on profit a company reduces from its operation prior to subtracting taxes and interest charges. So the profit margin is calculated by dividing its operating profit to its revenue. So guys, you can see that the operating profit margin for this exhibit is 13.9. So, mako-considered ba natin yon na mataas, good, average, or low? So, according to my research, 10% profit margin is considered as average. Then, 15% higher than that is good or high. Then, 5% is considered as low. So, the 13.9 is considered as average. So, not bad, not good. So, paano nga ba mapapataas ang operating profit margin ng isang business? So, pag tumaas ang percentage ng operating income as a percentage of net sales, yung business mo ay magkakaroon ng higher profit margin on its revenue. This situation occurs when you lower expenses and generate the same revenue, or when you increase expenses at a slower rate than a corresponding increases in sales. So, bakit nga ba mahalaga ang higher operating margin? So, the higher operating margin indicates that company is earning enough money from business operation to pay all of the associated costs involved in maintaining the business.
Position could be significant weakened. An industry with strong barrier to entry is ideal for existing companies within the industry since the company could be able to change higher prices and negotiable better terms. In our example, the PepsiCo and Coca-Cola, there has no significant barrier to entry and also the other drinks and beverage.
Threat of substitutes. How easily can customers switch to substitute product or services? How likely are they to switch? When there are close substitutes in the market, competition increase and profitability diminished. For example, between restaurant and grocery store for certain types of prepared food. Unique product with few substitutes such as certain prescription medicine enhance profitability.
Companies that produce goods and services for which there are no close substitute will have the power to position could be significant weakened. An industry with strong barrier to entry is ideal for existing companies within the industry since the company could be able to change higher prices and negotiable better terms. In our example, the PepsiCo and Coca-Cola, there has no significant barrier to entry and also the other drinks and beverage.
Threat of substitutes. How easily can customers switch to substitute product or services? How likely are they to switch? When there are close substitutes in the market, competition increase and profitability diminished. For example, between restaurant and grocery store for certain types of prepared food. Unique product with few substitutes such as certain prescription medicine enhance profitability.
Companies that produce goods and services for which there are no close substitute will have the power to increase their prices and lock in favorable term. While when close substitutes are available, customer will have the option to forgo on buying a company's product and a company power can be weakened.
Buyer power. Buyer power relates to the relative number of buyer and seller in a particular industry and leverage buyer have with respect to price.
So a company that has many smaller independent customers will have an easier time charging higher prices to increase profitability.
Supplier power. A similar set of factors with respect to leverage in negotiating prices applies on the input side as well.
A few supplier to an industry, the more a company will depend on the supplier. As a result, the supplier has more power and can drive up the cost and push for the advantage.
Economic attribute framework. So, ang topic na to is may 5 components which are the demand, supply, manufacturing, marketing, and investing, and financing. So, unahin natin ang demand. So, what is demand? Demand is an economic principle referring to a consumer's desire to purchase goods and services and willingness to pay a price for a specific good or services. So dito sa demand is ito daw yung consumer's desire na bumili ng goods or services na naaayon sa kanila na yung willing sila magbayad na kahit ano o kahit anong halaga. So dito naman sa isang meaning, are customers highly price sensitive? So dito so, ang consumers naman is napaka-price sensitive pagdating sa mga binibili nila. So, masasabi kong ang mga consumers talaga is napaka-price sensitive. So, the next component is the supply. So, supply are many suppliers offering similar products or a few suppliers offering unique products. So, the next one are those higher barriers to entry or can new entrants gain easily access? So, dito, yung sa una, many suppliers offering similar products. So, parang mas common na siya para sa mga suppliers. So dito naman sa components ng economic attributes, yung demand at supply lang siya para magkadikit lang siya. So halimbawa, pagbababa ang demand, pababa din ang supply. So parang vice versa lang yan na kapag ang supply is bumaba, pababa din ang demand. Kapag ang supply tumaas, tataas din ang demand ng isang product. So yun yung parang sa demand at supply na hindi sila pwedeng maghiwalay na dalawa. So the next is the manufacturing. So hindi ko nababasahin yung definition of manufacturing. Explain ko na lang siya para mas mabilis tayo. So manufacturing is dapat alam natin yung process of manufacturing para alam natin yung capital intensive. So ano nga bang capital intensive? Capital intensive, kailangan niya ng malaking halaga o investment para makapagpagawa ng product o services at para magkaroon tayo ng fixed assets such as PPE o yung property, plant, and equipment. So, in case naman sa electric power generation o kaya naman sa labor intensive, malaking amount ng labor o manggagawa para makagawa ng product o services. So, kinakailangan natin ng mga malaking manggagawa para makabuo tayo ng isang product at makabuo tayo ng product na maisusupply natin para matugunan yung demand sa market. So, dito naman in case of advertising o kaya naman with no capital at labor intensive, ay yung kailangan in case of automobile manufacturing. So, kailangan din ang tandaan na to consider yung manufacturing ay walang magiging problema or error pagdating sa paggagawa ng microchips o heart pacemaker. O kaya naman ang mga range of quality ng product ay acceptable o ayos para hindi ma-defect yung merchandise, parang merchandise disinfection ata yun, parang ganun. O in case naman if apparel o mga non-mechanized toys, yun. So manufacturing, yun sa manufacturing. So next is the marketing. So marketing is the product promoted to other businesses, in which case a sales staff plays a key role, or it's marketed to consumers, so that advertising, location, and coupon serve as principal promotion mechanism. So sa marketing naman, so sinasabi dito na yung mga sales staff, yung parang yung mga nagsi-sales talk, yung mga gagaling dyan, yung parang sa marketing. So sila yung nag-advertise ng mga product para mabilis na mabenta yung isang product. So yun sa marketing. So the last one is the financing and investing. So ano nga ba ang financing at investing? Financing and investing are a way of lending money in the company, pero magkaiba sila ng way nila. So financing ay kumukuha ng pera sa panghiram o borrowing sa earning ng investment galing sa outside sources. So yun na yun. On the other hand, investment is taking ang money from construction of operation or investment purchase like stocks, bonds, and etc. So dito naman pagdating sa investing and finance, dapat alam natin yung assets ba daw ay isang firm ay short term, in case ng commercial banks yon. Alin daw ang short term sources of fund ang kailangan para ma-finance yon. So the next one is kaya naman ang assets ay long term, in case na electric utilities yon. Alin daw ang required sa long term sources para ma-finance yon. So meron ako ditong some examples of short-term finance. So, the some examples of short-term finance are the trade credit, consumer credit, investment credit, accounts receivable financing, bank credit, and other sources. So, yon ang sa financing and investing.
Identify the company's strategies. Firms establish business strategies to differentiate themselves from competitors. But an industry's economic characteristics affect the flexibility that firms have been designing those strategies. In some cases, firms can create sustainable competitive advantages. For example, PepsiCo's size, brand name, and access to distribution channels give it sustainable competitive advantages over smaller or less known beverages company. PepsiCo Incorporation is an American multinational food, snack, and beverage corporation headquartered in Harrison. Ramon Laguarta is a PepsiCo chairman of the board. PepsiCo used cost leadership as its primary generic competitive strategy. The generic strategy focuses on cost minimization as a way to improve PepsiCo's financial performance and overall competitiveness. For example, to compete against Coca-Cola product, PepsiCo offers low prices based on operating costs. Similarly, the reputation for quality family entertainment provides Disney with a sustainable advantage, whereas a reputation for a low prices generates advantage for Walmart. In many industries, however, products and ideas quickly get copied. Katulad na nga lang ng mga cellphones, tablets, and computers hardware, chicken, pizzas, and hamburger restaurant chains, and financial services. In this case, firms may achieve competitive advantage by being the first with a new concept or idea, also referred as first mover advantage, or by continually investing in product development to remain in the leading edge of change in industry. Such competitive advantage is difficult but positive to sustain for a long period of time. Framework for strategy analysis. The set of strategic choices confronting a particular firm varies across industries. The following framework, dealing with product and firm characteristics, helps you identify the structure and set of trade-offs and choices of a firm must face. So, ano nga ba ang framework for strategy analysis? So, it is an attempt to summarize the entire range of activities involved in determining alternatives for the strategic allocation of resources. So, the first one is nature of product or services. Ang una ay kung nagagawa ba ng firms ang product differentiation strategy. Ang product differentiation strategy ay yung nag-i-stand out yung iyong product sa target market. It's how you distinguish what you sell from what your competitors do. And it increases brand loyalty, sales, and growth, focusing on your customers as a goal start of successful product differentiation. So, pangalawa ay yung nagagawa mo yung low cost leadership strategy, na kung saan yung company mo ay nag-o-offer ng cheap price to stimulate demand and gain market share, achieving low profit margin but in return, higher sales volume and market shares. Tapos yung pangatlo ay yung nagagawa pareho. Nagagawa yung product differentiation strategy at yung low cost leadership strategy. Differentiated products and maintaining tight control over cost. The second one is a degree of integration in value chain. So, nakapaloob doon yung vertical integration. Vertical integration is a strategy whereby a company owns or controls its supplier, distributors, or retail location to control its value or supply chain. Vertical integration benefits company by allowing them to control process, reduce cost, and improve efficiency. So, for example, is the Netflix. Netflix is the one of the most significant backward in vertical integration examples in the entertainment industry. In the past, Netflix was established at the end of the supply chain because it was platform to distribute films and TV shows created in the other content creators. So, films engage in two types of vertical integration. So, the first one is forward integration. It is a method of vertical integration in which a firm will gain ownership of its distributors. The second one is backward integration, which is a method of vertical integration that will gain ownership of its supplier. The third one is a degree of geographical diversification. Is the firm targeting its product to its domestic market or integrating horizontally across many countries? Operating in other countries creates opportunities for growth but exposes firms to risk from changes in exchange rates, political uncertainties, and additional competitors. So, ano nga ba muna ang geographical diversification? So, it means holding securities from different regions. You don't want all of your money in a single country or region for the same reason. You don't want it all in a single stock. The failure to stock would be a huge blow to your portfolio. So, most large multinational corporations also have a high degree of geographic diversification. This enables them to reduce expenses by locating plants in low-cost regions and see volatility on their financial statements. In addition, geographic diversification may have a positive impact on the corporate revenues as a high-growth regions offset the effects of lower growth regions. Number 4, degree of industry diversification. So, ano nga ba muna ang industry diversification? So, it has been widely implemented in the corporate world. The main aim of implementing industrial diversification is to reduce the impossible industry-specific risk while expanding the firm's economic scope and scale. Application of strategy framework to PepsiCo's. The first one is nature of product or services. PepsiCo's beverage division competes broadly in the beverage industry with offerings in soft drinks, fruit juices, bottled waters, sport drinks, teas, and coffees. However, its principal beverage products are soft drinks. Although one might debate whether its products differ from similar products offered by Coca-Cola and other competitors, a debate that invariably involves taste. PepsiCo relies on brand recognition and distribution channels to differentiate its product. So, the second one is degree of integration in value chain. So, PepsiCo's engage in new products development, manufactures, concentrates, and syrups, and bottle distributes and promotes its product. Maintaining product quality and efficient and effective distribution channels are critical to PepsiCo's success. So, PepsiCo emphasizes the important role of much of the value chain. So, however, bottling operations are relatively simple, yet capital intensive, and require long-term financing, typically debt. After many years of this operation being delegated to affiliated bottlers, PepsiCo recently began repurchasing financial interest in such operations, which has resulted in an increase in debt financing. Number 3, degree of geographical diversification. Note 1 to PepsiCo's financial statement and Exhibit 1.5, yung na-discuss kanina, indicate that PepsiCo's Americas Beverages Division generated 33% of the firm's revenue during 2012. So, PepsiCo's Europe and PepsiCo Asia, Middle East and Africa or AMEA represented 21% and 10% of revenue respectively. The remainder of revenues came from 3 distinct food divisions. Note that Europe and AMEA division includes both beverages and food sales. So, it's not possible for these disclosures to identify the exact amount of food versus beverage revenue for PepsiCo overall. Nevertheless, it is clear that PepsiCo is not a strictly beverage company. So, the fourth one, degree of industry diversification. To focus, streamline the presentation of industry analysis and strategic analysis technique, our discussion thus far has focused on PepsiCo beverages business. However, PepsiCo generates greater revenue and higher operating profit margins from the snack food and breakfast food division than from that beverages division. As seen on Exhibit 1.5, PepsiCo 3 food division generated nearly 37% of the company total revenues. Although PepsiCo is more industry diverse than Coca-Cola, many economic characteristics of the beverages, snack food, and cereal industry are similar in nature, involving that selling of branded consumer products. These industries can be characterized in having low barriers to entry but small number of powerful rivals with brand recognition access to key distribution channels. These industries rely on commodity raw materials for input facing low supplier power and relatively price-intensive buyers because of brand loyalty and distribution channels. As a result, PepsiCo's strategies are relatively similar between the beverage and food divisions, focusing on product development and promotion to leverage the brand recognition and maintaining access to important distribution channels.